Aladdin sat there flushed with joy and could not utter a word. He only nodded, yes, yes.
Once in a Persian city there lived a poor tailor. He had a wife and a son named Aladdin. When Aladdin turned 10, his father wanted to teach him the trade. But he had no money to pay for a master, so he began to teach Aladdin to sew himself. This Aladdin was a great idler. He would not learn anything, and as soon as his father went off to a customer, Aladdin would run out to the street to play with boys as mischievous as he was. From morning till night they ran through the town, shooting sparrows with slings or sneaking into other people's gardens and vineyards and stuffing their bellies with grapes and peaches. But most of all they liked to tease some fool or cripple. They would jump around him and shout, "Madman, madman," and throw stones and rotten apples at him. Aladdin's father was so grieved by his son's pranks that he fell ill and died. Then his wife sold everything that was left and began to spin cotton and sell yarn to feed herself and her idle son. He never thought of helping his mother, he only came home to eat and sleep. Much time passed. Aladdin turned 15. One day, while he was, as usual, playing with the boys, a dervish, a wandering monk, approached them. He looked at Aladdin and said to himself, "That is the one I am looking for. I have endured many hardships before finding him." This dervish was a Maghrebi, a man from the Maghreb. He called one of the boys over and learned who Aladdin was and who his father had been. Then he approached Aladdin and asked, "Are you not Hassan the tailor's son?" "I am," answered Aladdin, "but my father died long ago." Hearing this, the Maghrebi embraced Aladdin and began to weep loudly and beat his breast, crying, "No, my child, that your father is my brother. I came to this city after a long absence and rejoiced at the thought of seeing my brother Hassan, and now he is dead. I knew you at once because you resemble your father so much." Then the Maghrebi gave Aladdin 2 dinars and said, "My child, you are all that is left to me as comfort. Give this money to your mother and tell her that your uncle has returned and will come to dine with you tomorrow. Let her prepare a good dinner." Aladdin ran to his mother and told her everything the Maghrebi had said, but his mother was angry. "You only know how to make fun of me. Your father had no brother. Where did this uncle come from?" "How can you say I have no uncle?" cried Aladdin. "This man is my uncle. He embraced me and wept and gave me these dinars. He will come to dine with us tomorrow." The next day Aladdin's mother borrowed dishes from neighbors and, having bought meat, greens and fruit at the market, prepared a good dinner. This time Aladdin sat at home all day, waiting for his uncle. In the evening there was a knock at the gate. Aladdin ran to open it. It was the Maghrebi, and with him was a servant carrying exotic Maghrebi fruits and sweets. The servant set down his burden and left, and the Maghrebi entered, greeted Aladdin's mother, and said, "Show me where my brother used to sit at dinner." They showed him, and the Maghrebi began to groan and cry so loudly that Aladdin's mother believed this man truly to be her late husband's brother. She comforted the Maghrebi, and he soon grew calm and said, "Wife of my brother, do not marvel that you have never seen me. I left this city 40 years ago. I have been in India, in Arab lands, in the lands of the far west, and in Egypt, and I spent 30 years traveling. When I wished to return home I said to myself, 'O man, you have a brother, and he may be in need while you have not helped him. Seek out your brother and see how he lives.' So I set out and traveled many days and nights, and at last I found you. I see that my brother has died, but he left behind a son who will work and feed himself and his mother." "Not at all," cried Aladdin's mother. "I have never seen such an idler as this wicked boy. All day he runs about the town, shoots at birds and steals grapes and apples from our neighbors. You must make him help his mother." "Do not grieve, wife of my brother," replied the Maghrebi. "Tomorrow I will take Aladdin to the market and buy him fine clothes. Let him see how people sell and buy, perhaps he will want to trade himself, and then I will apprentice him to a merchant. When he has learned, I will open a shop for him, and he will become a merchant and grow rich. Is that agreed, Aladdin?" Aladdin sat there flushed with joy and could not utter a word. He only nodded, "Yes, yes." When the Maghrebi left, Aladdin lay down to sleep so the morning would come sooner, but he could not sleep and tossed all night. At dawn he jumped out of bed and ran to the gate to meet his uncle. The uncle did not delay. First they went to the bath. There Aladdin was washed and his joints rubbed until each one cracked loudly. Then his head was shaved, they perfumed him, and he was given rose water sweetened with sugar. After that the Maghrebi led Aladdin to a shop, and Aladdin chose the finest and most beautiful garments, a yellow silk robe with green stripes, a red cap embroidered with gold, and high Safian boots shod with silver horseshoes. The boots pinched his feet. It was the first time Aladdin had worn boots, but he would not take them off. Sweat ran down his brow under the cap, but everyone saw how prettily he wiped his face with a silk handkerchief. They walked the whole market and then went to a large grove just outside the city. The sun was high and Aladdin had eaten nothing all morning. He was very hungry and quite tired from walking in tight boots, but ashamed to admit it, he waited for his uncle to wish to eat. The Maghrebi kept walking. They had long left the town, and Aladdin grew parched. At last he could wait no longer and asked, "Uncle, when will we dine? There are no shops or taverns here, and you took nothing from the town. All you carry is an empty bag." "Do you see that high mountain over there?" said the Maghrebi. "We are going toward that mountain, and I plan to rest and sup at its foot. But if you are very hungry, we can eat here. How will you find dinner?" Aladdin asked. "You will see," said the Maghrebi. They sat beneath a tall cypress, and the Maghrebi asked Aladdin, "What would you like to eat?" Aladdin's mother had always prepared the same dish for dinner, boiled beans with hemp oil. Aladdin craved food so much that without thinking he answered, "Give me at least boiled beans with oil." "Would you like roasted chickens?" asked the Maghrebi. "Yes," said Aladdin impatiently. "Would you like rice with honey?" continued the Maghrebi. "Yes," cried Aladdin. "I want everything. But where will you get such things, uncle?" "From the bag," said the Maghrebi, and he untied the bag. Aladdin peered inside with curiosity, but it was empty. "Where are the chickens?" asked Aladdin. "Here," said the Maghrebi, and, plunging his hand into the bag, he drew out a dish of roasted chickens. "And here is rice with honey, and boiled beans, and grapes, and pomegranates, and apples." One after another he pulled dishes from the bag, and Aladdin gaped at the magic supply. "Eat," said the Maghrebi. "In this bag are every dish you could wish. Put your hand in and say, 'I want mutton, or halva, or dates,' and it will appear." "What a marvel," said Aladdin, stuffing a great piece of bread into his mouth. "My mother would be glad to have such a bag." "If you obey me," said the Maghrebi, "I will give you many good things. Now let us drink pomegranate juice with sugar and go on." "To where?" Aladdin asked. "I am tired, and it is late. Let us go home." "No, nephew," said the Maghrebi. "We must reach that mountain today. Obey me. I am your uncle, your father's brother. When we return, I will give you this magic bag." Aladdin did not want to go. He had eaten heartily and his eyes were heavy, but at the thought of the bag he forced his eyelids open, sighed deeply, and said, "All right, let us go." The Maghrebi took Aladdin by the hand and led him toward the mountain that barely showed in the distance, for the sun had set and it was nearly dark. They walked a long time and finally reached the foot of the mountain, where a dense forest grew. Aladdin could scarcely stand from fatigue. The place was deep and strange, and he longed for home. He nearly wept. "Oh Aladdin," said the Maghrebi, "gather thin dry twigs on the path. I need to light a fire. When the fire burns, I will show you something no one has ever seen." A longing to see such marvels made Aladdin forget his weariness, and he went to collect brushwood. He brought a bundle of dry branches, and the Maghrebi kindled a large fire. When the blaze was roaring, the Maghrebi took from his bosom a wooden box and 2 planks inscribed with letters as fine as anthrax. "O Aladdin," he said, "I will make a man of you and help you and your mother. Do not contradict me, do exactly as I say. Now watch." He opened the box and threw a yellowish powder into the fire. Immediately great pillars of flame rose, yellow, red and green. "Listen, Aladdin, listen carefully," said the Maghrebi. "I shall read spells over the fire, and when I finish, the earth will part before you and you will see a large stone with a copper ring. Take hold of the ring and roll away the stone. You will find a stair descending under the earth. Go down, and you will come to a door. Open it and go on. Whatever threatens you, do not be afraid. You will face wild beasts and monsters, but boldly go toward them. As soon as they touch you, they will fall dead. Thus you will pass 3 chambers. In the 4th you will see an old woman who will speak kindly to you and will want to embrace you. Do not let her touch you, otherwise you will turn into black stone. Beyond the 4th room you will find a great garden. Pass through it and open the door at the far end. Behind that door will be a great hall full of gold, precious stones, weapons and fine garments. Take for yourself whatever you wish, but bring me only the old copper lamp that hangs on the wall in the right corner. You will learn the path to this treasure and be richer than anyone alive. And when you bring me the lamp I will give you the magic bag. On the way back the magic ring will protect you from harm." He slipped a small shining ring on Aladdin's finger. Aladdin turned pale at the thought of the savage beasts and monsters. "Uncle," he asked, "why do you not go down there yourself? Go fetch your lamp, and take me home." "No, Aladdin," said the Maghrebi. "No one but you can enter that treasure. That hoard has lain underground for many hundreds of years and will be taken only by a boy named Aladdin, son of Hassan the tailor. I have waited many days for this. I have searched for you over the earth, and now that I have found you you will not get away from me. Do not contradict me, or you will be harmed." "What shall I do?" thought Aladdin. "If I refuse, this wicked sorcerer may kill me. It is better to go and fetch his lamp. Perhaps then he will truly give me the bag. My mother will be so glad." "All right, cast your spells," he said to the Maghrebi. "I will bring the lamp, but you must give me the bag." "I will give it," exclaimed the Maghrebi. He scattered more powder into the fire and began to chant incomprehensible words in a louder and louder voice. When he shouted the final word, there was a thunderous crash, and the ground split open before them. "Lift the stone," the Maghrebi cried in a terrifying voice. Aladdin saw at his feet a great stone with a copper ring that shone in the firelight. He grabbed the ring with both hands and pulled. The stone was very light, and Aladdin lifted it easily. Underneath there was a large circular pit, and at the bottom a narrow staircase wound downward deep beneath the earth. Aladdin sat on the edge and jumped to the first step of the ladder. "Go and return quickly," shouted the Maghrebi. Aladdin descended. The farther he went, the darker it became. He kept on and, when fear seized him, he thought of the bag of food. At the last step he found a broad iron door and pushed it open. The door opened slowly, and Aladdin entered a great chamber lit dimly from afar. In the center stood a fearsome black man in a tiger skin. Seeing Aladdin, he leapt at him silent and sword raised. But Aladdin remembered the Maghrebi's words. He extended his hand, and as the sword touched him the black man fell dead. Aladdin went on, though his legs shook. He pushed open the second door and froze. Before him stood a terrible roaring lion. The lion sprang upon him, but as soon as its paw touched his head it fell over dead. Aladdin was sweaty with fright, but he went on. He opened the third door and heard a dreadful hissing. 2 enormous serpents lay coiled in the room. They raised their heads and, their forked fangs out, slowly crawled toward him, hissing and writhing. Aladdin nearly fled, but he remembered the Maghrebi's words and boldly advanced. As soon as the serpent's fangs touched his hand, their gleaming eyes dimmed and they lay dead upon the floor. He proceeded and, reaching the fourth door, cautiously opened it a little. He pushed in his head and breathed a sigh of relief. No one was in the room but a little old woman wrapped head to foot in a shawl. Seeing Aladdin, she rushed to him and cried, "At last you have come, Aladdin, my boy. How long I have waited for you in this dark underworld." Aladdin reached to embrace her. She seemed like his mother, but suddenly the room brightened and dreadful beasts appeared in the corners, lions, snakes and nameless monsters that seemed to wait for Aladdin to err and let the old woman touch him, whereupon he would turn to black stone and the hoard would stay sealed forever. No one but Aladdin could take it. Terrified, he recoiled and shut the door. When he recovered, he peered again and found the room empty. He crossed it and opened the fifth door. Before him was a beautiful, brightly lit garden with dense trees, fragrant flowers and fountains rising high above basins. Little multicolored birds twittered loudly in the trees. They could not fly away because a fine golden net stretched above the garden. The paths were strewn with round, multicolored pebbles that dazzled beneath the lamps hung from the branches. Aladdin began to gather the pebbles. He hid them wherever he could, at his belt, in his bosom, in his cap. He loved playing marbles with other boys and joyfully thought of how he would boast of such a find. He took so many stones he nearly forgot the lamp. When he had nowhere left to hide them, he remembered the lamp and went to the treasure chamber. This was the last room, the largest. There were heaps of gold, rolls of costly cloth, jeweled swords and cups, but Aladdin scarcely looked at them. He did not know their value, having never seen such things. Besides, his pockets were full of pebbles, and he would not trade a single one for 1,000 gold dinars. He took only the lamp the Maghrebi had told him of, an old green copper lamp, and tried to put it in his deepest pocket, but there was no room. He emptied his pockets of pebbles, put the lamp in, and crammed back as many pebbles as would fit. He stuffed the remaining stones into other pockets and began to climb the ladder with difficulty. Reaching the top, he shouted, "Uncle, stretch out your hand and take the cap I have here. Then pull me up. I cannot get out by myself. I am heavily laden. Look at all the stones I have gathered from the garden." "Give me the lamp," cried the Maghrebi. "I cannot pull you up. The lamp is under the stones," answered Aladdin. "Help me out and I will give it to you." But the Maghrebi had no intention of hauling Aladdin up. He wanted the lamp and meant to leave Aladdin in the underworld so no one would know the way to the treasure. He begged Aladdin to hand over the lamp, but Aladdin refused. He feared losing his pebbles in the dark and wanted to get out. When the Maghrebi saw Aladdin would not yield the lamp, he grew terribly angry. "So you will not give me the lamp?" he shouted. "Then remain in the underground and die of starvation. Let even your own mother never hear of your death." He threw the remaining powder from the box into the fire and spoke strange words, and the stone closed by itself and the earth sealed over Aladdin. The Maghrebi was not Aladdin's uncle at all. He was an evil sorcerer and a crafty magician. He lived in the city of Ifriqiya in West Africa and had learned of an underground hoard in Persia guarded by the name of Aladdin, son of Hassan. The most valuable object in that hoard was the magic lamp. It grants to its possessor power and riches beyond any king. No one but Aladdin could fetch it. Anyone else would be slain by the guardians or turned into black stone. The Maghrebi long pondered in the sand until he learned where Aladdin lived. He endured many hardships and at last reached Persia, and when the lamp was at last close he could not believe the boy would refuse to hand it over. If Aladdin ever left the place, others might find it. He had waited so long to possess the hoard and did not wish to share it. Better that Aladdin perish underground. Perhaps he did not even know the lamp was magical. Having thought of this day and night, the Maghrebi resolved to see if the lamp was still there. He divined upon sand and learned that the treasure lay as before, but the lamp was gone. His heart froze. He divined more and learned that Aladdin had escaped and lived in his hometown. He hastily set out and traveled by sea and mountain and desert to reach the city where Aladdin lived. The Maghrebi went to the market and listened to what people said. At that time a war with the nomads had ended and Aladdin, who led the army, had returned victorious. People on the market spoke of Aladdin's exploits. The Maghrebi bribed a water seller and asked him to take him to Aladdin's palace. The water seller led the stranger to the palace, and the Maghrebi examined it from every side. Only a genie, the slave of a lamp, could build such a palace, he thought. The lamp must be in that palace. He devised a scheme. He had 10 brass lamps made at the coppersmith and bought them, giving 5 dinars down as payment. At dawn he went through the streets crying, "Who wants to exchange old lamps for new ones? Who has old brass lamps? I will trade." The crowd followed, and children cried, "Madman! Madman!" but he paid them no heed. At last he reached the palace. Aladdin himself had gone hunting, and in the palace was his wife, Princess Budur. Hearing the cries, Budur sent the chief gatekeeper to see what the man wanted. The gatekeeper returned and said, "A dervish, he offers to exchange new lamps for old ones." Budur laughed and said, "Let us test him. Is there any old lamp in the palace?" One of the maidservants said she had seen a copper lamp in my lord Aladdin's room. She was told, it was green with age and useless. When Aladdin left for the hunt he called the genie and, hearing the horn, hurriedly left the palace, leaving the lamp on the bed. "Bring that lamp," ordered Budur, "and you, Kafir, take it to the dervish and get him to give a new one in exchange." The gatekeeper went and traded the magic lamp for a new brass one. The Maghrebi rejoiced at his trick and rode away on a donkey. Once out of the city, where none could see him, he rubbed the lamp and the genie Maymun, son of Shamhorish, appeared. The Maghrebi commanded, "Carry Aladdin's palace and all within it to Ifriqiya and set it in my garden beside my house. Bring me also." "It will be done," said the genie. "Close your eyes and open them, and the palace will stand in Ifriqiya." In an instant the Maghrebi stood in his garden before the palace. When the Sultan woke and looked out his window, he saw the palace was gone. The ground where it had stood was smooth and empty. He could not believe his eyes and began to wail. Summoning his vizier, he cried, "Bring me that Aladdin, I will behead him." At that moment Aladdin was returning from the hunt. Servants seized him and brought him before the Sultan. The people loved Aladdin for his generosity. They surrounded him and warned the Sultan that if he harmed Aladdin they would rise up. The Sultan, swayed, spared him but gave him 40 days to find the princess and return her, or his head would be forfeit. Aladdin wandered in despair and resolved to drown himself. He came to a great river and sat upon its bank. In his distraction he slipped his right hand into the water and noticed something fall from his little finger, the ring the Maghrebi had placed upon him. He drew it out and, remembering the ring's power, rubbed it, and the jinn Danash, son of Kashkash, appeared. "What do you desire?" the jinn thundered. "Command and it is done." "I want you to carry my palace back to its former place," said Aladdin. But Danash bowed and said he could not. The palace had been built by the slave of the lamp and only he could move it. "Ask something else," he said. "If you wish, I will transport you to where the palace stands now." "Close your eyes and open them," said the jinn, and in a blink Aladdin found himself in the garden before his palace. He ran to his wife Budur, who was weeping bitterly. She shrieked at his return and then told him all that had happened. She said that the Maghrebi had courted her and tried to persuade her to marry him by saying that the Sultan had beheaded Aladdin and that she had no one now. She would not listen and wept for Aladdin. "Where does he keep the lamp?" asked Aladdin. "He never parts with it," Budur answered. "Listen, Budur," said Aladdin. "When this cursed man comes again, be kind and pleasing to him and promise to marry him. Invite him to dine and, when he begins to eat and drink, put this sleeping powder into his wine. When he falls asleep I will enter and kill him. It will be difficult for me to speak kindly to him," said Budur, "but I will do my best. He should come soon. Go. I will hide you in a dark room, and when he falls asleep I will clap my hands and you will enter." Scarcely had Aladdin hidden when the Maghrebi entered Budur's room. This time she greeted him gaily and said, "Oh my lord, wait a little while, I will dress, and then we will sup together." "With pleasure," said the Maghrebi, and he left. Budur put on her finest gown and prepared dishes and wine. When the Maghrebi returned, Budur said to him, "You were right, my lord, when you said Aladdin was not to be loved or remembered. My father struck off his head, and now I have no one but you. I will marry you, but tonight you must do as I command." "Command, my lady," said the Maghrebi, and Budur began to feed and wine him. When he was somewhat intoxicated she said, "In our country it is the custom that when the bridegroom and bride eat and drink together, then the last sip of wine is always taken from the other's cup. Give me your cup, I'll take a sip from it, and you will drink from mine." And Budur handed the Maghrebi a cup of wine into which she had beforehand slipped a sleeping powder. The Maghrebi drank and immediately fell as if struck by thunder, and Budur clapped her hands. Aladdin had been waiting for nothing else. He ran into the room and, swinging his sword, cut off the Maghrebi's head. Then he took from the Maghrebi's bosom the lamp and rubbed it, and at once Maymun, the slave of the lamp, appeared. "Carry the palace back to its former place," Aladdin commanded him. In a moment the palace stood again opposite the Sultan's palace, and the Sultan, who at that time sat by the window and wept bitterly for his daughter, nearly fainted with joy. He immediately ran to the palace where his daughter Budur was. Aladdin and his wife met the Sultan, weeping for joy. The Sultan begged Aladdin's forgiveness for having wanted to behead him, and from that day Aladdin's misfortunes ceased, and he lived long and happily in his palace together with his wife and mother.